Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Welcome to another session of your social science children. We have been already seeing a history lesson which is all about the early states, Janapadas and Mahajanapadas. So, this is the second part of the lesson where we are going to see about the various aspects or the various way of living of the people in various aspects, right? So, the first thing is all about social life. So, the social life by this 6th century, the Mahajanapada was going on, right? So, the 6th century BCE, the Varna or caste system became rigid. So, this system was introduced, okay? Varna is nothing but category, okay? So, people were categorized based on their professions, based on the work they were doing, they have been classified. So, that is called as Varna. So, this started in 6th century and then caste was determined by the birth and then the children were forced to follow the professions of their fathers. Okay, so whatever work the father was doing, children were supposed to do the same work. They were not supposed to choose their profession. They had to follow the profession of their fathers. Then, so the society was classified into 4 and that classification we call it as Varnas. So, this Varna is of 4 types. First comes Brahmins, where the priest and the people who were performing yajnas, pujas and sacrifices, they were under this category. Then coming to Kshatriyas, they were the warrior clan. Okay, so warrior clan, they were nothing but they were fighting against the enemies and they protected their people. So, these people, from these people, yes, the king was chosen. What do we call a king in this Mahajanapada period? We call them as Rajan. Okay, so Rajan was selected from this warrior clan. And then comes Vaishyas. Vaishyas are the people who were traders, businessmen, farmers and herders. Then coming on to the Shudras, the people who took care of sanitation and cremation, they were called as Shudras. Now moving on to the growth of towns and cities. So, earlier stage, all these places were small towns and villages only. So, this grew into cities. How? Over a period of time, some of the villages of the Vedic culture grew into towns and then into cities. So, the transformation took place over a period of time because of the various trade activities being carried out, various business being performed, the change took place. Coming on to the point of economy. Economy is nothing but the activities of trade which they were doing to earn income. Okay. So, the kings needed huge amount of money to maintain the armies under their control. So, kings when they had required more money to maintain the armies, what did they do? They started imposing tax on the people. Okay. So, they collected tax from the people. So, to collect the taxes, special officers were appointed. So, special officers were appointed to collect the tax and then agriculture of course was the main occupation of the people. So, when agriculture was main occupation of the people and when the farmers were not able to pay taxes as money, okay, what they did? They gave a part of their produce as tax to the government. So, farmers gave a part of their produce as tax to the king. Okay, so that was called as Bhaga. Next, so here we could see the coins, the punch marked coins of this Mahajanapada period. So, craftspeople like potters, carpenters, weavers and ironsmiths paid their taxes by cash or through free products. So, whenever possible they paid the tax as cash, or if it was not possible for them, they started giving their products as tax. Okay, so either it was cash or it was their product manufactured by the person. Then trade of goods and services were carried out by people as production increased. So, as more number of items were produced, it could be agriculture, it could be pottery, it could be iron utensils or weapons, weavers, whatever it was. As the production started increasing, people had to sell their things to some other place. They had to move around to sell their products. Okay. So that is how the trade activity started. Okay, so the trade of goods and services were carried out by people as production increased. Then instead of barter, punch-marked coins began to be used as units of exchange. So instead of barter system, people used this coins. Instead of exchanging the goods, people started using this coins as a medium of exchange. Then coming on to the tax, it was levied on trade items also. So whatever goods were traded in the market, they were also imposed tax. Now coming on to the roads and bridges, they were improved. The transport facility was improved. The way on which the vehicles will travel, the carts will travel, the path was improved by laying down roads and bridges. Why? Because that will improve the trade. Okay, so king laid down the roads and bridges to improve the trade. Then rivers were also used to transport goods for trade. So transporting goods to a very long place through waterways. Yes, so through boat or ship or whatever the water medium of transport was available, people started sending their goods through that, and rivers were also used for that. Then grains, textiles, silk, iron tools, ivory are the main articles of trade. Okay, so ivory is nothing but the tusk of the elephant. So all these were the main articles of the trade. Now moving on to the political life. So we have seen that Mahajanapadas are being ruled by the king. Yes, we call him as Rajan. So the Mahajanapadas were either republics or monarchies which were ruled by the king. Okay, so republic means a leader was chosen by the people. A person who represents the group of people, we call them as a representative, and that is the method prevalent in democracy, right? So choosing a representative, republic is nothing but choosing representative from the group. So it was either republic or it was monarchy. Monarchy is nothing but a rule by a king or queen, right? Yes. So these republics were called as Gana Sanghas, right? So these republics were called as Gana Sanghas. The example for that is Waji, which is a Gana Sangha, and then Magadha, which is a monarchy. Magadha was ruled by king and Waji was ruled by the representative of this Gana Sangha, right? Then coming on to this, most Mahajanapadas were ruled by a Rajan. Usually, majority of these Mahajanapadas, we have seen that there were 16 important Mahajanapadas were there in India. So, out of these 16, majority of them were ruled by Rajan only. Then, so how could a person become a king? How was a king chosen? Right? So first comes, he was elected by the people because he was strong and able. We have seen that a person from a warrior clan can become a king, right? So a person who is strong, who is able to safeguard his kingdom and his people, he was chosen to be a king. Then he inherited the title when his father died. So this was another category where the father is the king. So once the father dies, his son will automatically become the king. This was hereditary. Then he became powerful after conquering neighboring territories. So when one king, he goes on war against the nearby kingdom, nearby territory, he fights against them, yes, and he occupies that kingdom also under his control. So then again he was declared as a king for both the territories. Then he performed sacrifices like the Ashwamedha or the Rajasuya to gain control over large territories. So, these were the sacrifices performed by a king or a prince. Once he does this successfully, then he will become a king. So, Ashwamedha is nothing but yajna which was performed by a prince. Okay, so what they will do, yajna will be happening in the kingdom, and a horse will be sent from that particular kingdom. Okay, so the horse will be allowed to travel for 1 year fully. It can travel wherever it wants, and a group of soldiers will follow the horse. So wherever places the horse goes, all those places will come under the control of this king. Okay, so if any of the king are not ready to accept their defeat, they can fight against the king from where the horse has started. Okay, so either they can fight against this king, or they will accept the defeat and they will surrender to the king. So this is what called as Ashwamedha. And then coming on to Rajasuya. Rajasuya is a sequence of activities which has to be performed. Okay, so a prince has to perform a sequence of activities, and once he completes all those activities successfully, then he can become a king. So that is what we call it as Rajasuya. So all these were the qualifications to become a king. This is how it was. So now we are going to see about the important places of this Mahajanapada. First comes Magadha, right? So first we are going to see about Magadha. Magadha, as I said, it was a place which was ruled by a king. Rajan was taking care of Magadha, right? So the Mahajanapada of Magadha lies in the fertile Gangetic plains, covering parts of modern day Bihar and Jharkhand. So these were the places which included Magadha, right? So Magadha was a vast kingdom which includes present day Bihar and Jharkhand. Today we have named those places as Bihar and Jharkhand, and then it was a monarchy. So we know what is monarchy. Monarchy is a rule by a king or a queen. Then its original capital was Rajagriha or Rajgir. Okay, so the capital of this Magadha was Rajgir or Rajagriha. And by 5th century BCE, Magadha emerged as the strongest of the 16 Mahajanapadas. So out of all these 16 Mahajanapadas, Magadha kingdom turned out to be the strongest by this 5th century. So how come it became strongest? There were many factors for that, many reasons that turned out Magadha to be the strongest empire. We are going to see that. First thing was, Magadha was located at the confluence of the Ganga and Sun rivers. So confluence means the place where two rivers meet. Confluence means a place where two rivers meet. That is what we call it as a confluence. So the land here was very fertile and agriculture flourished. Okay, so as we know that the places which are nearby a river, the plains, are always fertile in nature and it is always suitable for agriculture. So this confluence was there in Magadha. So the place was very fertile and agriculture flourished in this place. So that was one main reason. Then the rivers acted as an excellent waterways for trade. So these rivers were also used for trade. So because of that, what happened? Trade also flourished. Now, dense forest that provided protection, timber and elephants. So this place was covered with dense forest, very dense forest. So they had very much high protection. Okay, they had protection, and also they have got timber and elephants from this forest. Next, rich deposits of copper and iron ore were available, which were necessary for making tools. They were able to make more tools because copper and iron ore were easily available to them, and it was available in larger quantity. Next, Rajagriha was surrounded by hills which acted as natural barriers against enemies. So this Rajagriha was completely covered by the hills, the sequence of hills, so that it was difficult for the enemies to get into the kingdom itself. It protected the kingdom from the enemies. The same way we used to say, right, the Himalayas act as a natural barrier for our country itself on the northern side. The same way, many hills were around this Rajagriha which protected the kingdom. And then a succession of powerful dynasties ruled Magadha and helped it grow into a powerful empire. So, one after the other king who came, okay, who ruled this Magadha, they were very powerful dynasties. Okay, so the kingdoms which were ruled, dynasties is the family way of the king, inheritance. The person who comes by inheritance, we call that particular kingdom as dynasty. So, in that way, one king after the other, they were powerful warriors, and that is how Magadha turned into a powerful empire. So, the first important ruler of this Magadha was Bimbisara, and he was from Haryanka dynasty. Okay, Bimbisara was the most important ruler of this Magadha kingdom, and he was the person who established the capital at Rajagriha. Then he had a mighty army consisting of foot soldiers and elephants. Mighty army is a very prominent, efficient army. Okay, then Bimbisara expanded his kingdom through warfare and through matrimonial alliances with other powerful Mahajanapadas. So, how did he expand his kingdom? He expanded his kingdom through warfare, means fighting against other kingdoms. So, by fighting against the other kingdoms, he expanded his empire, and also through matrimonial alliances. When he was able to marry a girl from other kingdom, that kingdom automatically come under the control of this king. Okay, so matrimonial alliance is nothing but marriage. Fine, so like this, he easily expanded his kingdom to large area. Now, after this Bimbisara, okay, his son came to throne. Okay, so he was succeeded by his son Ajatashatru around 493 BCE. So, in 493 BCE, Ajatashatru became the king. Then he was a great warrior who fought many wars with Kosala and Waji. So, he fought against many Mahajanapadas, and he succeeded in many of his wars. So, as I said, he succeeded in defeating the powerful republic of Waji by sowing dissensions among the tribes which made up the confederacy. So, he succeeded in defeating the powerful republic. We have seen that Waji was a republic in this Mahajanapada. So, by sowing dissension means by insisting the difference of opinion among the people. Okay, he started confusing people, and he made them think in a different way from one to the other. So, people started fighting among themselves, and the concept of group started to break. Okay, confederacy means being in a group. So, that started breaking there, and that is how he easily succeeded in capturing this Waji. Then, Ajatashatru also built a fort at Pataliputra, which is called as Patna today. Okay, which grew to replace Rajagriha as the capital of Magadha. So, he built a very big fort in this Pataliputra, and that turned out to be the capital, replacing this Rajagriha. And under the dynasties that followed, including Nandas, Mauryas and Guptas, Magadha continued to flourish as the most important Mahajanapada. So after this Haryanka dynasty, after Bimbisara, his son Ajatashatru came, and after him many dynasties came there like Nandas, Mauryas, Guptas, all these came, and the Magadha kingdom flourished because all the kings who ruled were very powerful, right? And next we are going to see about Waji. Waji is located here, right? So we will see about that. Waji lay to the north of Magadha and it extended up to the foothills of Himalayas in Nepal. Okay, so it was located to the north of Magadha and it extended up to Nepal, and its capital was Vaishali. And Waji was a Gana Sangha, that was a republic, and which was ruled by a confederacy of many tribes. So a group of people were ruling that place. Okay, so it was not under the control of a king, it was under the control of a group of people who were chosen by the people. And then the more important of these were Lichavis, Nyatrikas and Videhas. So these were the group of various tribes who were ruling this Waji. Now each of these tribes had its own chief who represented them at assemblies that met to take decisions on issues through debate and discussion. So each and every group of tribes had their representative leader, representative chief. So all these chiefs will meet together and then they will take any important decisions that has to be taken on a particular issue that was taken after each and every assembly. Yes, without assembly any decision cannot be taken, and Gana Sanghas were similar to modern democracies. This is what I was telling. So everyone should accept whatever decision is being taken. Only then the decision will be applied everywhere. Waji remained a powerful republic till Ajatashatru defeated it and annexed it to Magadha. So Waji was of course a very powerful kingdom, but before Ajatashatru defeated it, and it was annexed to Magadha. Annexed means combined. So it was combined along with Magadha by Ajatashatru. So the final part of the lesson, we are going to see about the difference between monarchies and this Gana Sanghas, right? So first thing about monarchy is they were ruled by a king or a queen, but Gana Sanghas were ruled by a chief who were called as Ganapati. Then power was concentrated in the hands of king and the family, as we have seen that a king is chosen after his father, right? It comes by inheritance, we have seen. So the power was concentrated in the hands of king and his family, and the king had the complete control over the kingdom and the army. Only king had the complete control over the entire kingdom and also on the army. No one else had the power. And here the Gana Sangha was a confederation. Confederation means a group of people. It is a union. Okay, so of several tribes, and the elected chief cannot take a decision without consulting the assembly. Assembly was called as Sangha. Okay, so the chief cannot take any decision without consultation of assembly, and a Sangha is a body consisting of representatives of all the tribes. Each and every tribal group had a representative chief. Now the position of the monarch was usually hereditary and the power passed on from the parent to the child. But here it was not hereditary because the chief was chosen by the people. Okay, so the position of the chief was not hereditary. He was chosen by the Sangha. Then they were mainly located in fertile Ganga plain, and here they were mainly located in the fertile regions like the foothills of Himalayas and northwestern India. And here the examples for these monarchies were Magadha, Kashi and Vatsa, and here Gana Sangha's examples were Waji, Shakya and Malla. With that, we have come to the end of this lesson, children. See you soon in another lesson in your social science. Thank you. To receive our online lessons, please press the subscribe button and you will receive the latest updates. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha.